They have a blue and red icon? Yeah, I can see it. I think it's a Bionicle.
Hey, is the audio good?
Yeah, is that a Bionicle Discord avatar?
Maybe. No.
Based. Alright, what's up?
Well, I wanted to change your mind about super. Jesus Christ, my heart's kind of racing fast, honestly. Oh boy, sorry. But essentially, so obviously the points I did were super straight. The whatchamacallit. Okay, so I want to postulate about sexuality for you for a second. Okay, so you've heard of the uncanny valley, correct?
I have.
So this is all conjecture right now, unfortunately, but the way I think this works is that you have biological males, 100% biological males. Every single scientific category that we have constructed is going towards them, and then you have biological females on the other side, okay? Now, trans people exist in that weird little middle space, okay? So you know the uncanny valley theory. Obviously, if something is more cartoonish or less cartoonish, then you will obviously have a different reaction. But if something essentially blurs the line, it's my little hypothesis that, some parts of a transgender person, obviously you're pansexual, so you don't exactly have the same response as someone, because, obviously the female parts and the male parts both are attractive to you, honestly. So I'm sorry if I can't really explain this too well, but just pretend like you're only attracted to the female parts. Oh, I'm straight anyway, so I'm just gonna do that. Also, by the way, S class is best class. Just want to say that. But anyways, so it's my belief that transgender people, so let's just say you have a typical transgender person, okay? Or transgender male to female, okay? So that person probably transitioned or started transitioning after they finished puberty, so they have an adult skeleton of an adult male. Now, the human brain is hardwired to determine three things, okay? Age, sex, and gender. Those are the first things, sorry, not gender, sex, okay? Sorry. Age, sex, race, sorry. I'm just a little bit flustered here, sorry about that. But essentially,
it's okay if you want to take a breath. It's not a race. I'm not gonna jump over you.
I'm trying to beat Ben Shapiro as the fastest talker on YouTube, But no. So those first three things. So the whole idea is that whenever a straight person, such as myself, or super straight, I guess we'll call it for this debate, they see a trans person. Essentially, there are two signals. One is the fact that they vaguely look feminine, and the other one is saying that there are still remnants of the masculine part. Now, as part of this thing, I just want to conjecture, this is about sexuality, not dating. Obviously, it's definitely possible for you to date a transgender person, okay? Heck, you could date a full-on male if you didn't know they were, like a full cisgender male. People have been catfish since the beginning of time, But what I want to postulate is that there's this weird discongruity between what you actually, experience, what your brain is telling you and what the other person is telling you, okay? So you obviously know that this person is not 100% biologically female. And unfortunately, I assume you would call that transphobia. So yeah, I guess in a weird way, it would be transphobic not to do that. But in also a way, I don't think there's exactly a way to change it without going full-on conversion therapy, Anyways, I'll give a break for a sec. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, could you hear me or?
No, I hear you just fine. I'm just waiting for you to lay out your premises, and then I'll, pick at them.
Well, that's kind of most of the premises right now.
Okay. Okay. So let's go a couple of paces back, if that's at all possible.
All right, sure.
So, what is a sexuality to you?
Well, basically, it's, what biological characteristics a person is attracted to. Now, I don't want to get into TOS, but obviously, the hot dog rising up is a current indication of stuff like that, where somebody is sexually attracted. Obviously, sexual attraction is a well-defined concept in a lot of things. So,
Well, you can say dick and vagina on Twitch. That's fine. But,
okay, sorry.
So, our understanding of sexual attraction has changed massively over time. You do not have to look particularly hard to find instances throughout history where
situational homosexuality, like for example among pirates and other stuff like that, yeah.
Or beyond that, where people who are entirely straight nonetheless feel attracted to men. Um, our understanding of sexuality today is very different from our understanding, say, back in Grecian or Roman times. Um, their understanding of sexuality had more to do with who was on top than who was straight or gay. And likewise today, if you look around for like a third of a second, you'll find that straight men, men who would never date a guy or have sex with a guy, are just absolutely enamored with femboys. Just up into the grave. And
Gosh, I want
likewise,
to tell you, there are a lot of people who are very sarcastic about that. Okay.
and there are a lot of people who aren't. And the narrative of like a straight guy being very much into a feminine boy suggests to me that historically sexuality doesn't have so much to do with the biological components of what you're attracted to as it does with the social and cultural and behavioral elements
Okay,
you find
Vosh,
yourself
I
most
just want to put
attracted
that.
to.
So, what? How exactly do you think that animals develop sexuality if they didn't have gender?
I
You
have
know?
no interest in what animals do or don't do.
Oh,
We
because
have
we
our
evolved from it.
own
We are
gender
animals. We evolved
constructs.
from animals. You don't think sexuality is related to animal sexuality?
We have social constructs. We have completely transcended the utterly instinct driven intercommunal behavior of animals. It's more
Okay.
complicated for us. I mean, animals will like
uh,
fuck
th-
whoever. Like like male animals will fuck other male animals sometimes because they're dumb and they don't even know what they're fucking. Like their situation. I guess that happens to humans too.
well, I mean,
But their situation is a little different. I'm just for sexuality
that's part of it
historically.
too. But
It seems like the lines here have been closer to what types of behavioral signifiers and appearance signifiers we're into, more so than like the biology. Like, we don't fuck people for their chromosomes. We don't really know what
well, we
people's
do fuck them
chromosomes
for their
are.
titties and other elements that are based off of sex and stuff.
Sure, but well, based on sex, they can be correlated to sex, but trans women can be
Well, you're not really
XY and
getting them
have
unless you
tits.
have. Well, they have tits because they either have implants or they have taken hormone replacement therapy, or
There are
they're just
cis
fat.
women
But
who have taken implants or hormone enhancers.
oh yeah, obviously, but they had them before then.
And
But
well,
I
I
guess
mean,
that is a little bit.
yeah, I mean, male and female humans are the same egg sperm being met in the womb. The base
Ah,
female
that's not
zygote.
exactly how biology works.
No, wait, hold on. Yeah, it is. Sperms and eggs both have all the genetic components to make a male or female child, and which
I don't know.
it chooses sort of determines which way the biologically dimorphous components turn
Well, the
into.
organs that no, the organs that are like sexually dimorph, like for example, ovaries versus testes, those ones. Oh wait, sorry. Let me grab my
Well, they're,
Actually, no, you are right.
yeah, they're
No,
biologically
I'm
analogous.
misremembering. Yeah,
The head of your
because the
penis is like the
testes fall
clitoris.
off. Not exactly, Vosh, because I looked into that because the urethral opening is different on the vagina versus the penis.
Well, yeah, I know there are differences, but these are biologically analogous. It's the same base human template, and then depending on what hormone washes we get in the womb, we can go one way or the other.
Okay.
So,
So what do you think
well, the
I'm
point I'm
just wondering
getting
what do you
then
think
is
the
like,
difference is between a cisgender man and a transgender woman
well,
exactly? Or I
the
mean,
point I'm
like a femboy who identifies as a male, like who's that one phase guy, versus a transgender woman who just started that. What do you think the difference is exactly?
well, the point that I was making with regards to tits though is that there's not really any difference between like tits that trans women get from hormones and the breasts the cis women have. They're the same. I mean, trans women can lactate. It's literally just the same material. One of them just got stimulated with hormone development before the
Actually,
other.
there are cases of actual cisgender. There was one case. Actually, I think it's fairly famous, or not really famous. I learned about it in my anatomy physiology class, but essentially, a bunch of people were shipwrecked, and a cisgender man was able to lactate actually after having the child suck on his teat for long
Yeah,
enough, I
it's
think.
pretty
So
wacky
it's
stuff.
that's not exactly a gendered, or sorry, not gendered. That's not exactly a biologically female exclusive thing, though.
Yeah, well, the only point I'm saying when it comes to tits, I mean, trans tits and cis tits aren't really. I mean, if you're attracted to like tits
No,
on a
one of
person,
them's
I
made
don't.
of silicone, one of them's made of fleshy stuff.
Well, no, if you when you take feminizing hormones, your breasts grow. Those are literally just like the same as breasts on cis women. It's this biologically they're the same.
So what do you say about the skeletal differences, though?
Which skeletal differences?
Well, for example, wider hips versus narrow hips, obviously broad shoulders, all those typicals. Obviously, there are variations within the female population. You have some really buff
I've
looking
got wide
chicks and
hips.
some, yeah.
I've got wide hips, and I have male friends
Exactly.
whose bodies are tiny with really narrow frames. You know
So you think like a straight person could be attracted to someone even of the same sex?
what? I thought we were talking about skeletons.
Oh no, that too. But like, say if like a man had like a you know, okay, say if like a man had a bunch of more quote unquote feminine-ish features, you don't really think that gender, sorry, you don't think the sex is the end all be all of sexuality, do you?
No, but you're the one who brought up skeletons. All I'm saying is that I know there are
Right.
males who have dainty skeletons, and I know cis women, biological females, who are tall and broad framed. While
Okay.
there are on average differences between the skeletons of people born male and female, it's really along a fairly arbitrary spectrum, and there are plenty of cis guys out there with wide hips and narrow frames that get tons of pussy, and plenty of larger females with broader, frames, rugby players, I guess, who get tons of dick pussy. And so to me, it's like it's fairly arbitrary. Like there are cis women out there with big skeletons. So if trans women have big skeletons, to me, it's just not like a. I mean, I don't know. It's a woman's skeleton.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, that is a little bit of a. It's kind of hard to argue against that, honestly. What were the other topics I wanted to talk about?
Oh wait, we were. I think we were
Never
a
mind.
couple of premises deep on this. I thought we had a little bit more to talk
Oh
about.
yeah, let's go on. Let's go on about it.
Well, the
So
point the point that I always
so
get through on this is that it seems like all the characteristics that make cis women and trans women different, like almost all of them, just exist on a spectrum between the average biological markers of males and females, but that nothing along that marker like definitively makes a person less of a woman or less worthy of attraction. After all, it's not like straight guys don't like dick. Straight guys love dick. Have you seen all like the porn discourse and subreddits? Always looking for guys with big dicks, and like they're always looking at dicks, straight guys to compare themselves to because they like looking at them, they love them. So you see a woman with a dick, I mean, that's not exactly a big leap for a lot of straight guys, not all of them, but like I don't think that makes them less straight.
oh my god, oh my god. Okay, I think I've found out why you're doing this.
You mean why? Wait, you called in? What do you mean, what am I doing?
No, no, I mean I think I understand your whole idea about tearing down the sexualities and stuff.
Yeah, I just don't think there's any difference. I mean, you're straight. If you're straight, then you can be attracted to cis and trans women. And if you're not attracted to a lot of trans women, I don't think that makes you like a bad person necessarily. There are trans women who have physical or physiological characteristics that some straight guys aren't going to be attracted to. I just think the whole
Yeah,
making a
like having a dick.
sexuality, well, yeah, not everyone's going to be into dicks. I think that's fine. But the whole like making a sexuality out of it, like I wouldn't fault a person if they weren't like super into like Asian women because that's just wasn't necessary. Like they were just some it just doesn't tend to be their aesthetic or whatever. Like I wouldn't come at them and call them a big racist or whatever. But if they made a sexuality and it's like, yeah, I'm mega straight or I don't fuck Asian women, that'd be like kind of weird, right?
Honestly, this whole thing about super straight, I'm not gonna lie, it was meant to be kind of a troll to begin with, and people unironically like took the language of the left and co-opted it to like try and defend that shit, like Sargon and all those like, type of people.
I mean, that's how it
Like it
is,
kind of
right? It's the
they
semi-serious
kind of
defense.
defeated the, I mean, they kind of defeated the point of the troll, honestly.
Well, I mean, because they
Like what was
believe it, right? I mean, the person who came up with the term said he didn't think trans women were women, so obviously the bigotry was real. Just yeah, it was an attempt at like owning the left by adopting the mantle of a sexuality.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I guess this was kind of hard to. It is kind of hard to defend a position of super straight versus a pansexual person, honestly, because I mean, you don't really like you're attracted to everyone, I guess. Like the whole idea of Actually, I want to ask you a question.
I'm
This is a genuine
generally
question.
attracted to feminine characteristics, It's not everyone. It's just the gender doesn't bother
Oh,
me.
so there is a difference between like, so you feel a difference in attraction between male and female, or what you perceive to generally be male or female, you know?
Yeah, I tend to be a lot
Or,
more discerning when I'm attracted to men. I don't like many masculine signifiers. But when I see trans women, even trans women that like don't necessarily pass, I don't usually think of that as because they're masculine. I just think of that as because they're like women, but of a, like a different kind, like they're trans women and cis women. But
I
it's
mean,
just in the
honestly,
woman
it's
umbrella.
okay. Listen, I'm not gonna lie. Most of the time, the voice is kind of the biggest turnoff for me if I ever see some. If you couldn't tell from the title, I am a little bit super straight. I think I might change my mind after this, but I don't think so. But who knows? But honestly, like talking to the people, like their bodies, you can tell a difference generally. Like after the HRT stands up, but the voice is generally, and for for F to M, it generally is a lot different in terms of like you can see. So the chat's probably going to think that I am the Antichrist now, but I actually used to watch Calvin Garrett. I think people kind of know him as an infamous figure, to say the least. But there was like a lot of, I kind of went into a weird phase. I am going to concede this. Okay, there definitely is a difference between like obviously trans men and cisgender women. I can say that 100%. Okay, because like obviously people who are attracted to like say feminine features, you don't want to like a person with like a mustache, big muscles and like hair and stuff like. But even if they had a vagina or something, so I think the whole idea of like genital preference, whenever you're talking about that, is kind of a little bit disingenuous.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with having genital preferences necessarily. Penises and vaginas are very different to one another. If you're attracted to one but not the other, that's totally fine. I just think that I think a lot of people are very cruel to trans women over things they wouldn't mind if they saw them in cis women. It's the transness that bothers them more so than any of the associate characteristics. Because I know cis women. I'm talking about cis women here who are tall, broad-shouldered, deep-voiced, strong-jawed. There are even cis women who have somewhat prominent Adam's apples. It's just a variable thing. And I know these
Yeah.
women haven't had trouble in their love lives because they're all cool ladies and stuff. But it seems like if you add that and then it's like, oh, it's because they're trans, then it's like, oh. And people then get weird about it in a way they wouldn't have if these were just attributes.
I mean, there is. So for some guy, obviously you're going to say this is just transphobia, which I don't entirely disagree with. But if I ever look at a person or whatever that's trans, there's always going to be the nagging feeling like that used to be a dude in your mind, and which is obviously transphobic or whatever as you would say, but it's always going to be there, boss. You can't get rid of it. I'm sorry, but you can't. Okay.
I can't. I mean, you used to be like a baby, right? But like, we don't want no baby fuckers, right? So seems like time is kind of an
Yeah,
important attribute when it comes to just discerning whether or not, this is a sort of worthy partnering.
I don't know. This coming from the guy who defended pedos, it's a little bit. Actually,
Nice
do you want to
name.
transition to a different? I'm sorry. Okay, can we talk on that for one second? I just wanted to say you
Uh-huh.
don't have there are you do realize that people like are willing to boycott Nike in some cases, right? Like I know the analogy, the infamous clip was about like Nike versus them using the slave labor of the CCP and whatever, and then you analogize that like using that framework, there is no like ethical argument for CP. Number one, CP produces like nothing for society. I'm just gonna say that right up front. Whereas like at the very least, tennis shoes like they're or Nike stuff like they at least give people like athletes jobs and stuff. Okay, but even so, slave labor is completely, absolutely, morally reprehensible, and you can
I'm glad we
boycott it
agree
just
on
as you
that.
boycott the other stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
well, hold on.
definitely.
I'm not talking about boycotting. I'm talking about banning it and banning all companies that participate in it and eradicating it from the face of the earth so severely that the government has the ability to track down people who illicitly buy materials from companies that use slaves and then arrest them. That's what I'm talking
I
about.
mean, in all honesty, like if you're using slave labor, like at the very least, the higher up should get like at least some jail time for it. Okay,
Well,
because
okay. Well,
slave
then
labor is.
Well, then you agree with my point. Wait, then you're completely affirming my point. The problem that I have is people are so blasé about the child slave labor. They're like, oh, whatever, like it happens over there, whatever. And then obviously they have the correct position on the CP stuff, which is like the complete social, political, and legal denunciation. But then they get really weird about it. So what I said was essentially the devil's advocate argument. So, oh, if you think this is fine, then prove that this is bad. which optically has its
Okay, sorry.
drawbacks.
I
But
should
yeah,
have watched the entire clip about that. I just
it's okay. No one posts the
that's,
entire clips. But no, yeah,
yeah.
then you agree with me if you, yeah.
I mean, I guess sort of. It's yeah.
If you agree with me that it's
There
all
is
bad, then we
there
do
is still
agree
like
on
another.
principal
There is
parts.
still like another. I can see a little bit where they're coming from. Where like there is at least a marginal amount of benefit coming out of that, but like it's just not something we should like ever. I don't. I definitely say it's definitely morally bad to support Nike, like actively support them. Okay, or the other companies that use slave
We could
labor.
just cut it here and you don't have to
Yeah,
find ways to split
yeah,
hairs on how child slavery is like a
yeah.
marginally more ethical. It's okay. We can just say it's all bad. We can leave it at that if you'd like.
You
You
want to? Okay, how about the mansion stuff? Okay,
oh no,
I just want to say that
if
you
I
got to admit there are at least some
hold
people
any
that
more
thought they were
water defending
genuinely.
Hassan, I'm going to make him pay me for it. I don't mind Hassan getting dunked on because it's very funny to see him get mad. I just think that a lot of this is like really desperate like hypocrisy shit flinging from people who don't really
I'm
have
not gonna
much to
lie. Hypocrisy arguments are kind of a little bit mute if they don't like if the person engages this act and they call out somebody else for engaging this act, like it's a very hypocritical thing. Like all the kind of big YouTubers saying, "Oh, Hassan's a socialist, but he buys a house or whatever," and they're also like fairly wealthy with their own houses and stuff.
it's it's
It's
just
a
like
little bit.
it seems to me
It's
like
not the best effect, you know.
it's low level discourse. It'd be like if there was a Christian and Christians believe in turning the other cheek when they're struck, right? And like the Christian gets mad at someone and you're like, "Ha, you're a Christian, but you got mad rather than turning the other cheek." And they're like, "Okay, I mean, sometimes it's okay to get mad. You know, Christ got mad in the temple when he encountered the merchants." And you're like, "Ha,
Yeah,
but you're supposed to turn the cheek and you got mad." And then like forever it's like, okay, um and this happens anytime anyone on the left gets any kind of power, either from within and without. Like it's sometimes it's wealth, sometimes it's prestige. Christ, bread tubers get canceled over having 5-figure Patreon salaries, which is just ridiculous. I don't know.
they okay. Someone like ContraPoints probably should pay their editors like a little bit more than they do.
How much does
I
ContraPoints
I'm
pay
not.
her editor?
I don't even know honestly, but like
Wait, then how can you
the whole
say she
co-op.
doesn't pay them
I
enough?
don't know. I don't know. I don't even know, man. I think I heard it from some trash tube. Some.
What? Wait, then how do we
Oh
know?
wait. I don't
Wait,
know. I don't know. I
I
don't
don't.
know, man.
I think she edits her own stuff. I think she has a producer who helps
Um,
with project management, set design, and camera control and stuff like that. Um,
I don't know. Yeah, the whole Mondragon stuff. I'm not gonna lie. So there are some dumb plans for like worker co-ops where like everybody, no matter even if they're part time, like gets the same amount of pay or whatever. But like the whole Mondragon thing about like having the CEOs only making 8 times as much as the lowest worker. I can't actually agree with that because like over 8, maybe over 10 times the value kind of depletes a little bit, but like you got to admit that like there are some the people who don't follow that are a little unethical, I suppose.
if people are unethical for underpaying the people who work for them, I think it's equally unethical whether they're leftists or on the right. I don't think it makes any difference to
Yeah,
how unethical it is.
but I'm going to say one thing. I definitely think there are some people who genuinely thought that Hassan would like use their dono money for like a good cause or something rather than just buying himself a house.
Well, his
And those
his
people,
job is a good cause.
I mean,
It's not like he made
he
his
does
money
advocate for.
investing, like he made his money being one of the largest and strongest advocates for socialism online. I I
I'm
get
just saying it would have hit like 12 times harder if he didn't like, buy a house. But
well, I don't think
I know it's
most
not.
people in his community
Yeah,
mind. I think it's mostly right wingers and liberals who are upset with him.
yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I think his community mostly finds it amusing. I don't. I don't care that much. I don't.
Anyways, what was I gonna?
Wait,
Oh
hold
yeah.
on. You're doing a lot of clicky clacky shuffling
I'm
stuff
sorry.
back there.
I have this little Nerf thing next to me. It's sorry. Um. Well, anyways, what was I going to say about? Oh yeah, anarchism will never work. Oh gosh. So I
Many
have
people are saying this.
I've I've spent a decent amount of time in your Discord server, and I'm not gonna lie. there are some really weird arguments for anarchism. Like the whole idea of a moneyless, classless, stateless society, you would, in order to make sure that somebody else rises up, you would almost have to have like a cult-like mentality to like make sure 100% every single person was devoted to equality, like no matter what, okay? Or else, somebody would eventually gain power by, being charismatic or in support, gaining other supporters. Let's just say everyone lived in like a hippy-dippy commune or whatever, like throughout the globe, in this hypothetical, okay? Now, obviously, you advocate for a lot of transitionary steps, and hopefully those would work, but I mean,
Look, the problem with defending anarchism conceptually is that there's so much fucking groundwork that needs to be done politically before it even becomes viable that I feel like laying out the basic steps would take an unfathomable amount of time and would require nuance and information we don't have access to. I think the principles of anarchism are very, very defensible, you know? A stateless, classless society with the smallest possible amount of hierarchy, I think that's lovely, you know? Anarcho-communism. I don't think that system requires any kind of like superseding cult status or anything like that. I think that a system like that would mostly work by propping up a bunch of parallel institutions that, you know, cater to people's needs and have sort of some degree of regulatory power over them in adjacent industries. And the idea would be that you set these up in a way that it's not possible for them to be controlled centrally. And that seems like conceptually doable, but the logistics of how to get there are so
okay.
far from where we are right
Obviously,
now.
obviously, you've read 1984 before once, right?
I've heard of it.
I mean, everyone's got, yeah, of course. Well, anyways, so little plots. Here's my little headcanon about 1984. So, what if there was this? So you know how the inner party or outer party members are probably the most actual oppressed in the whole society. You know, they're the ones who essentially do all the grunt labor for the government, but they are essentially monitored more closely than the pros are, and more close to that. What if there was no top? It was just an endless circular loop where all the government figures were always afraid of essentially, they were afraid to ever gain power, essentially. And the whole cycle was unsolvable somehow magically, and there was nobody who could ever do it. Now, this is a crazy, crazy idea, but it honestly is a lot more complicated than what we have right now, which is kind of why I'm like I don't know if I call myself a liberal entirely, because like there are some principles like complete free trade, which are a little bit sus, but I mean the whole idea of like a liberal democracy with like, like America is now, majority rule with minority rights. It seems to be one of the better systems we've come up with. Okay.
I mean, we're so far into pontificating. We're beyond the veil. You know that, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
Look,
we're talking about like.
I don't think that there would be some kind of eternal circular firing squad in an anarchist society. Anarchist societies, or at least proto forms of it, were for a while kind of the default sort of organization for some human societies. Where you did have a kind of loose superseding hierarchy, usually like a tribal chieftain or some kind of village leader. But beyond that, the general functions of like material acquisition and distribution were largely handled in a decentralized way. The real question is it possible to scale up that freedom with a modern, highly complicated, interconnected economy and legal system? And that's like the difficult part. But I don't think that naturally leads to any kind of 1984-esque permanent internure, firing squad.
I'm not saying that anarchism is. I'm saying that in order to actually rein in, oh my God, it would almost be like a paradoxical version of like fascism, but there's nobody at the top and there's no like actual minorities to oppress, which is honestly paradoxical in its whole entire. It's my little hypothetical brainchild. Who cares about? What was it? Oh yeah. By the way, I wanted to do one more thing before I leave. The definition of a woman. So I have a few things to say about that.
Quick meme, because I gotta finish this game tonight.
I'm sorry. Okay, so first off, you can't really divorce it exactly from. So the whole definition about circular, anyone who is a woman, who is a woman, anyone, if anyone says they are a woman, they are a woman. I just wanted to say that you can't really divorce it from the whole aspect of like an adult human female, because the social roles, obviously before in prehistory when there weren't exactly transgender people, these emergent behaviors of both sexes or both genders essentially, even though they're I hate to use the word gender when talking about like prehistory and stuff because the social roles weren't exactly defined quite yet. But I'm saying that most of these times, like all these social roles, they generally, defend a dichotomy of like the females generally being weaker on average, and generally staying home on average, versus the males who go out and explore and are more aggressive on average. And it's you can't really divorce the idea of a woman from like the biological traits of an adult human female. Now there is a
Wait,
lot of
wait,
sociological.
why not?
Yeah.
What definition God is pinning the term to that idea?
Because pretty much every single idea throughout society is, based that on the behaviors of, obviously adult human females as women.
What does that have to do? I mean, for thousands of years, shaman were one of the most important people in a society, and we had tons of terms relating to their prophecy. I mean, what does that have to do with it? We choose these definitions for what brings us the most utility. So I feel like the definition that I have for it probably brings the most utility. I don't know what we necessarily lose through saying that
Well,
a,
because
a
I'm
woman
just saying
is a
that
person
transgender
who.
women are not completely divorced from, obviously the roles we have defined for biological women.
Well, what
And
does that
even
have to do with anything?
I'm just saying that the whole circular idea of who is a woman is whoever defines himself as a woman. You can end that circle by linking it at least a little bit initially to adult human females.
Well, it's not necessarily circular because the term woman like has two different meanings there. You can think of woman as a label that people self-identify as. It's one that we ascribe and it's one people can ascribe to themselves, and we do so in order to contextualize the behavior, roles, and relations that a person has relative to their environment. So if a person is wants to call themselves a woman, they have the power to put that label on themselves, and it means that they're in some way trying to recontextualize their relationship to what's going on around them and to their own internal dialogue. But I don't think that that definition is necessarily negated by the fact that there's an association between womanhood and, say, being able to give birth or having a womb. That can be the case for most women, but there are going to be some women who don't have that.
Well, the idea is the behavior that obviously so the societal role of women. You can agree that the societies generally oppress anyone who wasn't completely gender conforming to their birth sex, right?
That depends. The Indians have had the hijra, I believe, the third gender. That's been a thing for centuries and centuries. There are two-spirit Native American people, and different
Well,
societies have had different ideas on this kind of thing.
I just want to say, there's the word two in two spirit, right?
I think two-spirit for them meant like they were born with one, but then there's like, was it like an animal spirit that they lived with in them, and it was I don't know the specifics of it. I don't think the two-spirit meant that like
I don't know.
they're half male, half
We gotta get a
female.
well, we gotta get a scholar in something.
There are 6
The whole idea.
genders in ancient Judaism in the Talmud. Damn, they got around.
What the fuck? What? Ancient Judaism? What the fuck?
Maybe that's why the Nazis fear them so
Am I
much.
tossed or never? Oh, I mean the not. I mean, you got okay. I got to recommend everyone "The True Believer" by Eric Hoffner. It goes into the philosophy of the Nazis and also a bunch of other mass movements throughout history. But the whole idea of a perpetual enemy is kind of why the other. Never mind about that. I just wanted to say that
All right, I've read plenty on the
S class
Nazis.
is best class. All right, sorry for that. See ya.
Okay, be well. That was an odd conversation. That was incredible. You guys are too mean. That guy acted in good faith the entire time.